skylight now. Killing me. Since I've been out.
That's
Pneumonia.
urban
I
ed.
gave him that price. Now I own still a little second floor addition over yesterday. In Piscataway.
So if you scroll down, you see
That'll be my third job on that little building.
something
You're gonna get me that, I'll talk to you in the morning. So you're 6 hours ahead. I'm Monday. Tomorrow morning. What time are you calling me? It might be midnight, Mike. Not when you're working.
I'll see you next year. You're a JG. Even
Oh, they went to school there?
I've been to our office.
Before the first person I met with Craig was Craig.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened? I got you. She was shit.
The last 3 months. Yes. Yes.
Who's getting my first job? Golden.
Correct.
That's Craig's house.
He's trying to get it. I can't change it.
And I hate a coin when we were doing 195 out.
Yeah.
We know that.
Give me one for my
We
phone.
got it. It's like, hey,
I'm like, dude, this is your boss for this department, not his.
Yep.
Oh, here, I'm supposed to give it to you?
And with that one, you have to go, you gotta go through the middle, which is down New Jersey. Yeah, but then once you get that, then you go back down to Jersey City itself.
Yes.
We were trying to cut it.
Now, this is what I'm looking. You know what?
It's like you can't even get this. You send me some photos. It took 8 times, I finally realized.
This was what it was then.
Shut up. You don't know. And I get like 2 pictures. Hey, can you take a picture?
I stared. He's got all kinds of subdivisions. Breeze was in front. Gas. They built on the back.
So it would have been on the order, right, not under.
Well, this is.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah. Here's.
Maybe that's what.
Planning.
That was 63, and finally 15.
You want the plan or you want the resolution?
The resolution and
His
his
daughter
was advertised in the local source, the newspaper of record, and notice has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building adjacent to the municipal clerk's office. Roll call.
Mr. Bentavegana.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Graves.
Here.
Miss Martins.
Here.
Miss Scott.
Here.
Mr. McNeil.
Here.
Mr. Wiley.
Here.
And Mr. Champy.
Here. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the November 29th and December 6th meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the meeting minutes of November 29th and December 6th, 2023 be approved as written and dispensed with their reading.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Mr. Manguso, are there any communications?
There are no communications, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing none. Our first order of business this evening is calendar number, it would be the adoption of a resolution for calendar number 3425, Oscar Tenazaka and Gabriela Pacheco, located at 815 Prospect Street, Block 5804, Lot 16, and it was for the installation of a pool in the front yard. Board members, you've all had a chance to read the resolution. Are there any board members who would like to comment, make changes or modifications to the resolution as it is written? Hearing none, may I have a motion and a second for the approval of the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board adopt the resolution as written and is accurately memorializing the previous findings of this board.
Second motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bentavegana.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Miss Martins.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Mr. Graves.
Yes.
And Mr. Champy.
Yes. Proceeding. Our next order of business is calendar number 3422, Rawway Estates, LLC, located at 581 Rawway Avenue, Block 3702, Lot 5. Applicant wishes to raise the roof of an existing warehouse, add a second-floor mezzanine along with offices and restrooms, and then add a third-floor mezzanine with all new landscaping. Mr. Hale?
Mr. Chairman and board members, Stephen Hale representing the applicant, Rawway Estates. Great to see you all this evening and appreciate you coming out during the holiday season to hear this case. Just by way of background, we were here approximately a month ago. We wanted to work on some plan revisions and exhibits for the hearing. I think I introduced you to Israel and his wife, a young couple that bought this property in 2020. They operate a great little business there. It's a family-owned business, and they handle various clothing articles. You'll see, and I think you'll be impressed by the renderings that we have. Essentially, what they want to do is raise the roof to provide some additional storage space in the building. And I think I mentioned it's very similar to when we were at the planning board earlier this month for American products. In this day and age, getting product in, the timeline is very difficult. And this is one of these, and I talked briefly at the last meeting, more is less. By having more capacity, less truck deliveries, and we have a great traffic report that was endorsed by Colliers, and Betsy Dolan will testify as to that. Again, it's a limited type of business. They only have 5 to 10 employees, and most of the deliveries are Amazon, FedEx, and UPS, and they get maybe 1 or 2 box trucks a day and approximately 1 tractor trailer per week. So low intensity. Again, just raising the roof, no change in the hours of operation, number of employees. We've read the Colliers review letter, and we have no problems or objections to that. And as part of the raising the roof, there's going to be a new facade on the building and nice new landscaping, further enhancing the stretch along Rawway Avenue. So what I'd like to do first, Israel and his wife are running a little late. They have family commitments, but they hope to get here by around 8 o'clock. But I know, again, I introduced them last time. So what I'd like to do is to start off with our architect, Chuck Dietz. Since most of this is architectural, a lot of times we start out with the engineer, but it's really mainly the building itself. So I'd like to call upon Mr. Dietz as our first witness.
Yes, Mr. Hale, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I did mark as submitted the A1, the application with supporting materials. A2 was the site plan of 5 pages. A3 was the 1-page survey. A4 was the truck turning plan that was submitted. A5 are the architectural plans consisting of 2 sheets, and then A6 is the traffic impact analysis.
Great.
So those materials are marked, noting the Collier's report too, October 18th, and as well as some fire department comments. So all the departmental comments are part of the record.
Great.
Can I ask the witness to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
If you could, for the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Charles P. Dietz, managing member of the Dietz Partnership LLC Architects, 90 East Halsey Road, Parsippany, New Jersey. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey for the past 35 years. My license is active and in good standing, and I'm also licensed in 14 other states along the eastern seaboard. I've testified before the planning board in Union Township several times, as well as...
Mr. Hale, the board will accept his
Great.
credentials. Mr. Dietz, would you like to spell your name?
D, as in David, I-E-T-Z.
Thank you.
Great. And I think we're going to get some tech help here to get the screens on.
I was going to let the chairman know. My circuit is not working right now, but DPW's coming to fix it. So if you want to get started without it,
Yeah.
and then I'll get it to them.
We have the plans here, too.
Oh, great. Okay. So,
You have the rendering?
see, and I told them all,
That I
you don't need to bring the boards. Don't bring the boards. They got it. Everything's tech.
No,
Don't worry.
we don't have the rendering.
We'll get that by the time. All right, so, yeah. All right, so, and I know the board has the plans. So, Mr. Dietz, you're obviously well familiar with this project. We've talked about the purpose of the addition. So take us maybe first through existing conditions, and then I know you've worked with the applicant on the nature of the business and the purpose of the expansion.
Yes. As Mr. Harrell stated, we are looking to raise the roof in the modern world of warehouse and storage uses with racking. The modern day standards have 36-foot clear. We obviously don't have that. We have barely 20-foot clear in the existing building. As Mr. Hale also stated, I'm sure a traffic witness can testify the same. Doesn't mean more volume, it means efficiency. Having the extra height allows them to take less trucks with more product on it, store it in the taller racking systems throughout the building in a much more efficient way versus having to keep moving incoming things that are going out and moving them up and around inside the space when he doesn't have the clear height. So that was their optimum goal, was to try to get that extra height, to get the efficiency, to get the racking at the proper height so he could distribute the product in a more efficient way. Everybody's obviously familiar with the building. The front facade facing Railway Avenue is an old brick facade that actually was the main entrance. The previous offices are located there. They had a long walkway from the sidewalk in the street right up the middle of the building that brought you to the offices. But it's a dated, and even the brick is in somewhat disrepair. So what we thought about, once we almost doubled the height to 43 feet to the top of the parapet, is not only, do the addition on the side, how do I mesh these two? So if everybody can see the rendering, we're painting the brick, repairing whatever needs to be done, and then the addition portion is going to be actually made out of light gauge instead of a precast like you would do in a normal ground-up warehouse for a brand-new building. But we're able to do this where we can actually put the score joints in to make it look like it's a precast modern building, but it's really the synthetic stucco and light gauge framing behind it. But it's all up at a height that is above where anybody could reach or touch it, so it's actually going to be a very durable product, even though it's a stucco type product, because it'll be above the 16, 18-foot line, so no one will be able to do any damage to it. Basically what the applicant would like to do to be more efficient is take all the offices out of that front facade, move them to the rear and into the 2 mezzanines that Mr. Hale described, because they really don't have that many employees, and they can be more efficient when we raise the height in racking the building by bringing that all the way to the front wall, and that's shown on my architectural sheet A1 that was submitted as part of our package. So now the front of the building facing Railway all the way to the back dock is going to be consistent racking, very efficient. It lines up the aisles with doors that are there now, and and the back loading dock areas. And then the mezzanine, again, is for the small office area, break room, and toilets for the staff. If you look at the rendering, what we did is we picked some earth tones, knowing the proximity of where this building is on Rolway Avenue. Across the street, there is some residential neighborhoods. There's other industrial and commercial type uses on the same side of the street as this property. We tried to come up with an earth tone color, so we're going in the browns and tans for the lower section of the building, and then a lighter off-white color at the upper story, and then we're capping it off with a dark brown band at the very top at the 43-foot elevation. Also in modern warehouses, if you remember, you went back to the turn of the century, all the industrial warehouse buildings used to have those funny sawtooth roofs that had windows in them, so it allowed natural light to come into the warehouse areas. Well, we're doing it a little differently. We're actually adding windows, regular storefront style windows, in each column bay, up at the highest levels. So A, it acts as a decorative and accent feature to the facade of the building, but it's also serving the purpose of bringing natural light into the warehouse so the employees will get to see if it's daytime, nighttime, raining or sunny, and then you can see along my facade. And then we did a little, again, trying to highlight and do something a little more special, knowing the neighborhood we're in. We did some painted accents around those windows, the light tan, the dark tan, the brown, and then the actual window. They're tall windows. They're about 4 or 5 feet wide, and they're about 6 or 7 feet tall. So they look good in proportion to the facade, and it'll bring in a lot of natural light for the employees, which I think is beneficial to not be in a box all day long and not know what's going on outside the building. And we basically carried that around the two sides, the front side, which faces Rolway Avenue, and then the long side that's on the parking lot side where the trucks would come in, that faces the neighbors. And you get full visibility of that facade as you drive up and down Rolway Avenue. The other side, long section of the building is very close, almost a zero lot line to the neighboring warehouse building. And then the back faces, I think, you have the railroad back there and trees, so no one really sees that part of it. So we really are looking to spend the money wisely, accentuate the building, knowing the neighborhood that it's in, and give you the best looking warehouse, industrial style building that we could for this neighborhood, especially knowing that you're trying to, not have new industrial warehousing on this block. So we really, I think the applicant allowed me to go a little further and take that extra step to try to make the nicest product possible that we could, modernize it, and make it something that Newton Township could be proud of. And then the last thing, as Mr. Hale mentioned, when we came before the board previously and with some of the workshop sessions, if you know the building, it's a big flat grass area that had 2 sidewalks leading to the building that aren't going to be used anymore because the offices aren't there. So they recommended to really accentuate that whole facade and the corner property line as you come in the driveway with landscaping. So my rendering does reflect that, and our civil engineer / landscape architect will address that more, but I think we've done a really good job bringing trees, shrubs, deciduous, non-deciduous, and plant areas that will really accentuate that and soften that facade at that first story level of the old building along Rolway Avenue and the main corner drive aisle as you come into the property. So I think all in all, between my architecture and the civil engineer's landscaping plan, I think it really enhances and beautifies a building that's been there probably for a very long time and could be considered an eyesore in the township. Modernize it and bring it into the 21st century and make people in Newton Township proud to have this business in their municipality.
Great. And from an architectural standpoint, thank you very much, and can't wait to see the rendering. Hopefully it'll be up on the screen soon, but we have a copy. Perhaps we could mark that as, well, I guess, what are we up to, A?
A7.
A7.
Is there rendering, you said?
Yes. So if you want, we'll give the board a minute. But while they're taking a look at that rendering, if you could just confirm that from an architectural standpoint, you have no problem complying with any of the terms, conditions in the Collier's review?
That's correct.
And I think, I don't know if I believe, no. And then,
Nice.
yeah.
Wow.
So we'll just give the board a moment
Really
to take a look
nice.
at
I
that
think the
rendering.
fire department too, Steve, had the sprinkler concerns
Yes.
and other details, so I imagine that would
Yeah,
fall.
that will all be done if this is approved through the construction drawings with the sprinkler contractor. And
Yes.
all the other things that will be required will be per code, fully sprinkler code. You got me?
Ah, We got you.
There we go.
Put the rain again. I'm old, I'm tired.
Let's see if we can get, are we able to? It should be, let's see if it's there.
Well, it's on my screen here, so how do I get it? So I'm looking at the window.
It should come up then if it shows on your screen.
Yeah. Dark brown base is basically the red height that's there now. On the side of the building is all kind of just regular concrete block. So I think it's a very simple enhancement of the colors that we're proposing. And then the new stucco, the higher section and the introduction of windows, I think will really enhance.
There we go. Oh, it's there, but not there, okay. No. I guess we can see it on that one, yeah. Hmm? Oh, sure.
But I've done several buildings, and I'm working on several buildings where they didn't want to go the kind of traditional precast or tilt wall concrete even from the ground up. And we've done a masonry base up to about 16 feet, and then proposed a light gauge framing system with the synthetic stucco above. And then we introduce, again, that's the challenge today in the world in warehouses, is how you take a rectangular box that's usually pretty tall and make it look interesting. So you come down to your paint color selections, your score lines, and again, this doesn't have a main office. Like some of my buildings will do something special at a corner entrance for the office people, but because they don't really need that, it's been tucked in the back, we didn't have to do that. So it comes down to picking colors, so we try not to do the normal gray, like you see everywhere else, warehouses tend to be gray, and many variations of gray. And then whatever, if the applicant maybe has a specific color in his logo, we introduce that. He didn't have either of those. So again, trying to be a little different, kind of a brown family, and more earth tone, a little softer colors. And my renderer uses a real paint spec when she does these, so if we get approved and we go forward, we will grab those actually to Sherwin-Williams or get them more paint colors, and this way we know when this building gets built, that it'll match the rendering, because she will have given me the exact paint specs that she used in the rendering, so we can say it looks exactly, pretty much exactly like it when we're done there.
Great, thank you, Mr. Eath. No further questions at this time, Mr. Chairman?
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Dietz's testimony?
I have a question. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful rendering. And I heard you testify that you will conform to the request of the fire department in terms of the work that's required on the sprinkler system.
Correct.
But another requirement he has is a fire lane, no parking.
Civil engineer would be
He'll
better.
answer that.
But we would, that is, yeah, he'll touch on that, but yes.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Will there be any signs on the property?
We didn't propose it. I don't think we have enough signs. No, he doesn't need his name. We didn't put the address on it. We didn't.
It'll probably be the address. The fire department usually requires that, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing, not a pylon, not a facade sign naming the business is not proposed at this time.
Thank you.
again, it's not open to the public, so it's, it works well.
Any other board members? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony Mr. Dietz has given? Hearing none, Mr. Haley, your next witness.
Great, thank you. I'd like to now call upon our civil engineer, Robert Michello.
Can I ask the witness to raise his right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth? For the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Yes, it's Robert Moscello, M-O-S-C-H-E-L-L-O. My company name is Gladstone Design, and it's 265 Main Street, Gladstone, New Jersey. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Michello, if you could please give the board the benefit of your work, educational experience, area of expertise, and whether you've been accepted as a professional engineer before other boards or courts of the state of New Jersey.
I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I received my license in 2004. I've actually appeared before the Board of Adjustment here in Union before for the YMHA project, the solar panels that were done out there, and I was accepted as an expert witness in civil engineering at that time.
The board will accept his credentials.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
So I just have
Your
a
mic,
couple of-
your mic is coming back. There you go.
Excellent, great. So I just have a couple of exhibits I'm going to run through this evening. As Mr. Dietz had already pointed out, he spoke about the site already to a certain extent, but, so what I have on the screen here is the 2020 state aerial, just to give everyone the context of the site location itself. We have, and north being up on the plan.
Well, let's
Yeah.
mark that first.
So we'll be A8.
A8.
And for the record, it's entitled Aerial Exhibit dated December 6th, 2023. And so what we're looking at here is the state aerial, just to give everyone some context of the property itself and its location in relation to the surrounding environs. It's known as Block 3702, Lot 5, and it's 1.377 acres. It's outlined in orange here on the plan. And you can see the majority of the sites are taken up by the existing building, and there's existing parking off to the west side of the site. The site's located on Rahway Avenue, as Mr. Dietz pointed out, and it's in your CI, Commercial Industrial Zone. And just for some context, the zone across the street's your 2-acre single-family residential zone, but everything to the east, west, and south of the building is within your CI Commercial Zone. And then, of course, we talked about there's existing buildings on both sides and the existing old abandoned railway right-of-way to the south of the building itself. The existing building, as it sits today, is 33,866 square feet, and the existing lot coverage on the property is actually 92.1%. So it's the majority of the site is covered by building and parking lot, and there's actually 21 parking spaces on the property today. So moving on to the proposed. So for the proposed application, what we are proposing to do here, the majority of the site is raise the height of the building. And we're actually going to take the building height, as Mr. Dietz pointed out, it's just around 20 feet right now. It's actually going to go up to approximately 42 feet and plus or minus in change in terms of its overall building height, which complies with your ordinance requirements for 45 within the zone.
And is this another exhibit? I assume, right? 'Cause it's
Oh, I'm
colored.
sorry, yeah, this would be Exhibit A9
A9.
for the record.
Sorry, I just want to.
That's okay, I forgot to enter them in here. It's site plan rendering, and it's dated December 6, 2023. So we are looking to do a couple things in terms of the on-site enhancements. Besides the enhancement of the building itself and the elevations that you saw and modernizing the look of the building, we also want to enhance the existing site features that are on the property. And a couple things that we're going to do here in terms of that. Number one is the landscaping that Mr. Dietz pointed out. We're going to enhance the front landscaping on the site. We're actually adding a series of what we'll call, for all intents and purposes, ornamental trees. There's 4 ornamental trees. There's going to be 9 evergreen trees, 12 deciduous shrubs, 23 evergreen shrubs, and ground cover that's going to basically enhance the entire front of the property. What we're also doing, too, is, as I mentioned, there's 21 parking spaces on the original plan. We're actually going to remove 2 parking spaces in the front of the site here on the right side of the entry driveway when you come in off of Rahway Avenue. And by removing those 2 parking spaces, we can put additional landscaping there. We can also reduce the lot coverage slightly as well. So the lot coverage was originally 92.1%. We're going to bring that down to 91.3%. So we're actually going to improve an existing non-conformity on the property, which is the lot coverage. So we're going to reduce the parking slightly to do that. We're also going to add a handicap parking space. We're going to add an 2 EV charging spaces as well to comply with the EV parking standards that are required now per the state. And we're also going to repave the entire parking lot. So this way, with the new building, you'll have new landscaping and a new nicely paved parking lot that you'll have filtered views from the street, because we're actually reducing the view into the site with the landscaping that's being shown in the front of the property. We're also going to remove the existing lighting on the building, the old style metal halide lights that are on the side of the building and put new LED-style lights on the building, which are downlighting. They meet the new dark sky compliant requirements, and they're LED-style lighting compared to the old style lights. There'll be 6 of those on the building, and that's also part of the site plans that were submitted as well. I just want to touch on briefly the various variances that are being requested for this project. The majority of the variances, or the bulk deviations, are existing nonconformities, such as building setbacks from both the rear, side, and front. Lot coverage, as I mentioned, is existing nonconforming, although we're going to slightly improve it. We have the building coverage itself is also a nonconformity on the site, and that's going to remain unchanged. There's also, in terms of the nonconformities, the parking that's on the site is actually within the front yard setback, so that's also a nonconformity on the site as well. These are all existing nonconforming conditions that exist on the property today. We are asking for a design waiver that is new for the lighting. For the lighting that's on the rear portion of the property, there's 2 loading docks on the building today. They're on the rear of the property. And just for the lighting on one of the loading docks towards the very rear one, the light levels just spill over the property line, where your ordinance requires 0.5-foot candles. We're at 1-foot candle, just over a small portion of the property line. That rear lot is the abandoned railroad, so really it doesn't impact any residential properties or any other properties. So again, from a design waiver perspective, the board can look to hopefully grant that based on the fact that it doesn't impact any surrounding properties. And then in terms of the review letters, we've reviewed them, both the Collier's letter and the engineer of the tax assessor and the fire department's letter, and we can comply with those. In terms of the question that was asked about the fire lane striping, that is going to be marking that we'll put on the pavement against the building to note no parking fire lane there. So we'll certainly do that as part of the conditions of approval, should the board act favorably on the application.
Okay. And again, no problem with any of the other comments in the Collier's review?
No.
Okay, great. I have no further preliminary questions of Mr. Michello.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony of Mr. Marcello?
I do, concerning the fire lane on the, I guess that would be the west side of the building where the, some overhead doors are there. Right now, what looks on the rendering, there are gonna be doors,
Yes.
and that's where you're proposing to put the fire lane right up against those buildings. But those overhead doors, people are gonna pull it, lift them doors up, and they're gonna try to get vehicles in there, or load or unload. How do we prevent that and keep the sanctity of those fire
Well,
lanes?
those doors, there's the actual loading doors that are going to be used are in the back of the building for the.
Those are overhead doors.
Right. Those 2 are just for access if to get in and out of the building with larger deliveries. They're not going to use for vehicles pulling in and out. So that being the case, that they'll be striping where you can't park or block the front of the doors. And so that's just for bringing smaller deliveries in. The loading docks are in the back of the building where a tractor trailer will back up to, and there we'll be able to park up against the building.
Yeah, I understand that, but they're doors, and if there's doors, people want to park there to use them. How do we prohibit that?
Well, I think it's going to be just an operational thing for the client to make sure that people don't block those doors there, and the truck, that if there's any deliveries, they either use the parking spaces if they're small trucks, or the big trucks go into the back of the site. I think that's just an operational thing that the client will have to make sure that he's not blocking the fire lane. The other thing that I should point out is the drive lane between the parking spaces and the building is about 39 feet wide. So it's actually much wider than your typical 24. So if someone were to park there for whatever reason, they're not supposed to, but you still have ample room for an emergency vehicle to get by in terms of that 39-foot width that's actually there.
Never a problem until it is.
Yeah. And we will work and coordinate with the fire department, both in the placement of the fire lane and appropriate signage to make sure that that's adhered to.
And striping as well on the pavement.
Are there any other board questions? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony Mr. Marcello has given? Hearing none, Mr. Haley, your next witness.
Yes, I'd like to now call upon Elizabeth Dolan, our traffic engineer, and I'd like to welcome Israel has joined us, the property owner and business operator.
evening.
I think you met him last month when he was here, and he's probably thrilled that he doesn't have to testify unless you want to hear from him. I think we're going to have to call him up, right?
He's got to do the closing.
Yeah, I'll let him do it.
Good evening, Ms. Dolan. It's Rob Pansul, the Board Attorney. Can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
And for the record, just state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Elizabeth Dolan, D-O-L-A-N, Dolan and Dean Consulting Engineers, LLC, 181 West High Street in Somerville, New Jersey.
Thank you.
All right. And Ms. Dolan, I know you've testified before this board and many other boards. Would you briefly give the board your credentials?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Rutgers. I'm a licensed professional engineer registered in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. My New Jersey license is in good standing, and I continue to testify 2 to 3 nights per week on average throughout the state.
The board will accept Ms. Dolan's
Thank you.
credentials.
Yes.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. And I know you did a report, and it was endorsed by Colliers in their review, but briefly give the board the benefit of your findings.
Sure. Our report is dated August 28, 2023, and I believe earlier this evening it was noted that it has been entered in as A6. The report is pretty hefty for the application that's before you. We've got an existing warehouse, existing user, 5 to 10 employees max, and the goal of this application is to improve and modernize the building so that it is more efficient, as you heard from our architect, Mr. Dietz. So from a traffic perspective, if we've got an existing operating facility and we're just going to modernize it, there shouldn't be any increase in traffic. And the applicant is not proposing any increase in employee load. Nevertheless, we did a series of traffic counts to identify what's happening at this site and on Rahway Avenue. And so we initiated our study back in March 2023 when we counted on it was a Wednesday, from 7 in the morning until 10 in the morning, and then again from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And we counted at the intersection of Rahway Avenue and the site driveway, the existing site driveway. And just offset and opposite is Arnold Place. It's a dead-end local roadway. So we counted all that activity, and we actually found very little traffic entering and exiting the site during the morning on that day, and a total of 14 entering and 15 exiting between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. So over the course of 3 hours, there were 29 driveway movements. In 1 hour, 6 in and 6 out. So we talked with the applicant, talked with the team, and we went back because we wanted to see a busier day at the site. So we went back Wednesday, April 19, 2023, and we steadily counted from 9 in the morning until 5:30 in the afternoon. The busiest hour we saw was 8 in, 7 out, 15 trips over the course of the one busiest hour in the day. There were hours where there were no driveway movements. There were hours with 2, 1, 3. But the busiest 1 hour after 2 days of counts was a total of 15, 8 in, 7 out. The majority are passenger vehicles and vans. There's FedEx, UPS type deliveries, box trucks. During the course of our visits and observations and counts, we saw 1 tractor trailer. It was a small tractor trailer at the site. So from a traffic perspective, this is a quiet site. Usually when we're at 100 or more driveway movements in an hour, that's considered significant. We also looked at the existing actual volumes and compared them. You've probably heard a lot of testimony from traffic engineers about the Institute of Transportation Engineers and the trip generation manual. If this were a vacant site and we were projecting or estimating driveway volumes, we'd go to that trip generation manual, and as is contained in the report, we would estimate 6 inbound, 6 outbound during the busiest hour of the day. So that's 12. We counted 15. So we're pretty much in line with what we would estimate if this was a vacant site. So we're not looking at additional employees. We're not looking at additional deliveries. We've got what I consider to be a quiet site from a traffic perspective. We're not looking to create any additional driveway movements, but if there's a swing in an hour of 1 or 2 vehicles, that's not enough to create a significant or negative impact on the adjacent roadway system. The site's being cleaned up. We've got a generous circulation aisle so that if there are 2 larger vehicles, there's certainly enough width in that aisle to accommodate two-way traffic. We've got ample parking. And as Rob testified, our engineer, there are docks and bigger parking and maneuvering areas for any larger trucks, but that's a very small percentage of the traffic activity at the site. So from a traffic perspective, we've got an existing site, we're not looking to add any more traffic, and your engineering review letter endorsed that. And I believe we also had a letter from the county saying that there'd be no significant traffic impact from this new building expansion and renovation.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Dolan. And like I said, Colliers did review Betsy's traffic report and found no issues with it.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony Ms. Dolan has given? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony Ms. Dolan has given? Hearing none.
Great. Thank you, Betsy. Yes, I'd like to call upon our professional planner, John Tykina.
Good evening. Can I ask the witness to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you can provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
And for the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
My name is John Tykina, T as in Thomas, A-I, K as in Kelly, I-N-A. I'm the managing member of All Things Planning and Development in South Brunswick, New Jersey. I am a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey and have been since 1992 when I completed my studies at Rutgers University. I've had the pleasure of appearing before more than 125 boards around the state of New Jersey, nowhere close to what Ms. Dolan does, but I do get around a little bit.
The board
haven't had the pleasure to be here, but have been at your planning.
The board will accept Mr.
And he has
Tykina's
testified in Union Township before.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Tykina, you know why we're here this evening. We're looking for a D2 variance and some pre-existing variances and one design waiver. If you could please provide the board with an overview of the justification from a planning standpoint, for the relief that we're seeking.
Certainly. So for the existing nonconformities, they would all be considered C1 variances because they specifically relate to unique physical conditions on the site that are driven by the existing building and existing improvements that are lawfully thereon. So the board can make a finding that continuing those is certainly appropriate, and they'll deal with the same negative criteria that all of the relief will do, and I'll only talk about that once at the end. Likewise, our design waiver, the standard there is, first of all, is it reasonable? And certainly having, continuing the existing nonconformity for the location of the parking spaces is certainly reasonable to, again, continue that existing nonconformity. It has been reduced somewhat with the reduction of the parking and the addition of the landscaping, so we are improving that condition somewhat, but continuing that is certainly reasonable, and it is certainly somewhat impractical to have to change that and change the entire parking lot. So we think the board can likewise make the finding for the design waiver for the parking, and finally, the design waiver for the lighting in the rear. Once again, it's certainly reasonable to have a little bit of light that's spilling over in the back of the building, given the existing right-of-way that is behind us and the wooded area, no homes, no other businesses, certainly nothing that would be impacted. And it is certainly not bright. It is just a little bit over the standard. So again, it's reasonable to be granted and certainly impractical to try and bring that light down any further. In terms of the D2 variance for the expansion of the nonconforming use, this is something that has been looked at extensively by the courts. There are a couple of different cases. One is Burbridge v. Mine Hill. The second one is Kingwood versus the Board of Adjustment. And in each of these instances, the standard is not like you look at for the full-blown use variance, but it is merely, is the expansion being accommodated by the site? And in this instance, we have a site that is fully improved now. We're just really refreshing and improving the aesthetics of the site, while we're also improving the efficiency of the building by going up. Actually, in Burbridge v. Mine Hill, the fact that there was an aesthetic improvement alone could serve as the special reasons for the grant of the variance. So here we certainly have a substantial physical and aesthetic improvement In terms of the non-conforming uses, again, it's already been, in the area and in the zone for a very long period of time. So the neighborhood has kind of, quote unquote, adjusted to it being there. So its continuation there, or even its modest expansion, is not really to be viewed incredibly negatively. In terms of the context and character of the area, that is certainly existing a large number of industrial uses that are there, specifically to the east, south, and west. We do have a little bit to the north with the residential neighborhood across the street. And finally, as we said, raising the roof will reduce the number of trips that exist and make the building more efficient. So in terms of the positive criteria, I would submit to you that there are two in specific. One is L, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. Mr. Dietz provided extensive testimony on the building and how it is going to be a physical improvement and is certainly good design. And purpose M, to encourage coordination of various public and private procedures and activities shaping land development with a view towards lessening the costs of such development and to the more efficient use of the land. And certainly by enabling the revitalization of this property with raising the roof, providing for an entirely new facade and really a modern face on this building with modern landscaping at the front, we are certainly providing for a more efficient use and certainly a more attractive use. The site engineer has testified that all of the uses, everything can be accommodated on the site very well. Ms. Dolan testified that the traffic is very modest and certainly promotes good circulation around the area. And as I said, Mr. Dietz with the desirable visual environment. The final thing is are the negative criteria. So we have to show that we're not going to have any substantial detriment to the public good, which really relates to the neighborhood. Certainly the improvement of this site is going to have no detriment to the neighborhood. It is not a noxious use. It is a modest family business that's going to be improved here and be more efficient and hopefully be here for a long time to come. And looking at the age of my client, I think he's going to be in business for a good long time. So that is a good thing. And then secondly, we have to talk about, is it going to be impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the master plan? In terms of the master plan, your 2021 master plan has a goal to support desirable non-residential development, certainly to encourage reuse of vacant properties that enhances the character of development and reduces traffic impact. While this isn't a vacant property, it is one that is being substantially modernized and revitalized, and I think that we are certainly supporting those goals and in no way impairing the intent of it. And then finally, for the zoning ordinance, the chapter in general looks to support all of the uses that are set forth in the municipal land use law, which I talked about previously. And in terms of the commercial industrial area, the purpose of this section is to permit buildings and operations for industrial, office, distribution, manufacturing, and similar businesses, recognizing that warehousing and distribution was prohibited in the district in 2022. That was really targeted at the new buildings, at the new and the large buildings that are, the 500,000 square feet, the 1 million square feet, the things that are the monsters, if you will. It is certainly not targeted at a 33,000 square foot warehouse that's being modernized for a small family business. The zone permits multiple uses and tenants, and given the existing nature of the warehouses, the proposal is certainly an improvement to the existing addition, and it's not a wholly new use. So I think that while we recognize that the governing body did choose to prohibit warehouses in '22, we have a unique situation here where it's an existing business that is just looking to modernize and become more efficient, and that is really not what was the target, quote unquote, of the rezone. So for those reasons, I think the board can make the requisite findings for both the C1 variances, for the waivers, and for the D2 variance, and I'm available for your questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Takina.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Takina's testimony? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony this witness has provided? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this application? Hearing none, Mr. Hale?
Yes, just briefly, and I would like to, he's going to get mad at me, but why don't you just go up to the mic for a second? They'll just swear you in for a second.
Just for the record, if you could swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, my name is Israel Rachlitz.
And for the record, state and spell your name with your affiliation.
Israel is I-S-R-A-E-L. Rachlitz, R-O-C-H-L-I-T-Z.
All right. And
One more time on that last name, I didn't catch it.
What?
Last name again, I
R-O-C-H-L-I-T-Z.
thank you.
And I'm not going to ask you much by way of questions, but just want to indicate you were here last month. I know you and your wife were here, and we told them the nature of your business, and the board has heard about that. But just briefly, tell them how important it is to grow your business or have become more efficient here in the township, and how excited you are to make a further investment in the Union Township.
So this is one of the, it's very important for our business because we are very limited in the space in the height of the building, and it's not giving us enough storage limit, and this will have a significant effect to help our business. We moved our business in 2020, and we love the neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood, and we love the community here. We are hiring people from this neighborhood, and we are looking out for the best to have our facility moving forward and be able to grow our business. And I really believe this is gonna help me. It's gonna help the community. It's gonna help everybody. It's straightforward, and it's really a plus for everybody. And I thanks everybody for giving me the opportunity to bring this case, and hopefully it's going to be approved, and we'll be able to take it to the next level.
Great, thank you. And don't be upset at me for dragging you up here. So,
What?
I said, don't be upset at me for dragging you up here, but I figured it was important to have the board at least meet you and hear about your business.
No problem. I'm sorry for I'm not so good in the language.
No, you're doing great. And
Thanks everybody.
Yeah. And before you arrived, Mr. Dietz did have a rendering of the beautiful improvements that you're looking to make to the building with the landscaping and agreeing to the fire lane and also. Thank you again.
Great. Thanks everybody.
They may have some questions, but.
Okay.
Are there any board members that would like to question the applicant? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the applicant? Hearing none. Mr. Hale, would you like to sum up?
Yes, just briefly. Thanks, Israel.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is just a great investment in the Township of Union. We've explained that this is a great situation of more is less. There's going to be more space, and you had the testimony of our traffic engineer and the other witnesses that by raising the roof, more efficient, again, similar to what we did with American Products across the street. The beautiful landscaping that's proposed, new paving, new lighting, and also the great design of the building, modernize the building and make it more efficient. As far as, and I think the justification for the D2 variance has also been supplied to the board. So we would look forward to the board approving this application and having Israel and his family move forward with the improvements. So thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. At this time, I believe we can conference this. Mr. Bendavagna, would you like to begin?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a good, clean application. I think all the professionals' testimonies given tonight were very accurate, so I will be voting yes tonight.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I also agree with the testimony was excellent, and I see no negatives in this application. The positive I can see right off the bat are the improvements, the physical and aesthetic portions of the exterior of the building, which makes it look a lot nicer than what it is now, and I compliment you on that. I will also be voting yes.
Ms. Martins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the testimony that was provided today, the improvements are well-suited for the site. The improvements are a great design for the site as well. So I will be voting yes, and I wish the applicant all the best.
Ms. Scott?
Yes, good evening. Good evening, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought the application was clean, no negative impacts to the community, aesthetically pleasing, so I will also be voting yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also agree with my colleagues that the application is clean. It was defended very well by the professionals, and it is an aesthetic improvement to the area, and I do plan on voting yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I think the site is definitely suited for the use. And as my colleague said, architecturally, it's going to be an improvement. I think it's going to make the building more efficient with what they're going to do, and I think the positives outweigh the negatives. I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Graves?
I concur with my colleagues, and I would be supportive of this application.
As for myself, I feel this is a very positive application, and the proposed improvements will not have a negative impact on the property or the neighboring properties. The existing structure, as we know, is a little in disrepair, and the improvements will greatly enhance the building and the property. The structure that is proposed is really impressive. The board wishes you good luck in the future, and I will vote yes for this application. At this time, may I have a motion to grant, a motion and a second to grant the application?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant the variance applicable to this application, and that council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Second motion?
Roll call, Mr. Manguso.
Mr. Bentavagina?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
And Mr. Champy?
Yes.
January 10th, Steve, will be into next year when we do our reorg. I'll slate it for January 10th, 2024.
Great, thank you very much, and everyone have a safe and happy holiday season, and appreciate your time and attention this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, there being no further business coming before the board this evening, I move that we adjourn.
All in favor? Opposed? So moved. Good luck to you.